I'm Nick. I'm an addict. I don't have a clue what I'm going to say. I know this about Dalmas. There's a lot of days that I'm not real sure of my program, and I'm not real sure that I'm doing the right things here. I'm not real sure that I'm being of service to others as much as I could be. And, you know, he's like sort of my gauge for that. You know, I can always look to Dalmas. I can always call Dalmas and see what he's doing that day and know that, like, if I'm doing the right shit too. He has, I have to, like, schedule with him to share steps because he has so many sponsees that, like, it's not even possible for us all to finish around the same time. And I know that he's helped to transform me with the use of this program and has helped me to grow in ways that I couldn't even imagine when I got here. He, you know, from the very beginning, he has just kind of let me be me. When I got here and when I was picking up white key tag after white key tag, and he told me that, or suggested that maybe I go back to treatment, he let me tell him no, but he didn't just let me tell him no. He let me tell him no, and then he let me come and lay in his floor and kick for about 4 or 5 days straight when I didn't have anywhere else to go, and I was crawling out of my skin. He's given me so much that I can't even really get in front of people and talk about it and without, you know, welling up. It's just incredible that somebody is so willing to share their time and their passion for this program with me in the way that he does. And what's really incredible to me is that I know there's probably, there's probably 5 or 6 guys in the room right now that he does the same thing for. And he continues to show up and do H&I. He continues to show up and do service for his home group. And I don't know, man. It's like one of those things. It's really not even fair of him to ask me to come up here and introduce him because I can't even do it justice, you know. He's a hillbilly, so if you're from the city, you know, you're going to have to listen close. But, I mean, I absolutely love this man, and you know, it's an honor that he asked me to be up here, and I'll give you Dalmas C.
I'm an addict named Dalmas. Can everybody hear me? Can everybody understand me? I don't know. I love to tell you guys that I'm really grateful to be here, but I do not like being in the spotlight. You know, when I was even considering doing this, there was a member of Narcotics Anonymous that stood outside this room one night a year ago and said, ultimately, it's our responsibility to freely give back what was given to us. And it's stuff like that that I take home with me from Ripley. you know. And it's stuff like that that makes me suit up and show up and participate in Narcotics Anonymous. And I don't cry a lot, but I may today, you know. This isn't my first time up here. There was a member of Narcotics Anonymous that asked me to come up here and read, you know, the 12 Traditions of Narcotics Anonymous. And his name was Rocco, and he meant a lot to me. He was a brother in recovery. And he sat back here, because if you knew Rocco, he was in a wheelchair. And I stood up here and shaked while I was reading. And, you know, me and him joked about that for many years. And to be able to come back up here today and remember that and crying in my seat thinking about him, it means a lot to me, you know. And being the member he was, what did he do? About a year later, he asked me to read again. I don't know, but I always like to start out by taking another moment of silence. And the reason why is I love to manufacture shit, you know. And I want to tell you guys that I'm more or less than what I really am. And the truth is that I'm just another member of Narcotics Anonymous. And all morning, you know, I even woke up and I opened the basic text and I thought, I couldn't even focus on it. And I thought, well, hell, am I studying for a test? You know? and it hit me right then that I'm just an instrument of this message, just as our basic text says, you know. And my sponsor, from the first time that I ever spoke, and he loves the literature of Narcotics Anonymous, and if you know him, you know that. And he always tells me to read out our 12th step in the basic text, and it says, an honest message rings true to the newcomer, you know. And I always read that before I speak, and it means a lot to me. So if you don't mind, and I'm going to ask everybody, if you pray for me and the newcomer. If you don't, just send me some energy, you know, because I will do the same for you. I just want to take another moment of silence to try to get the hell out the way. Okay. That was really short, wasn't it? All right. I don't know. I feel a lot of spirit of Narcotics Anonymous. There was a member that hugged me before I got up here, and he said, God's in the room, and whatever God means to you, that's what he was referring to, you know. And, you know, I'm thinking about when I first got introduced to Narcotics Anonymous, and I don't talk a lot about what it was like out there. You know, the truth is that what I used and what I did doesn't make me an addict. It's the way that I felt, you know. And I feel that when I focus on that, there's some people that can relate and some can't, you know. But we all can relate to the way that we feel, you know. I treated this disease for years with dope, you know, because I hated the way that I felt about myself, you know. There was always something missing. I always needed more, you know, never content with anything, never feeling a part of anything, always in pain, and I covered that with dope. That isn't important what I used to do that. It's not important who I stole from to get there, you know. That doesn't make me any more or less than an addict. It's you know, the omission of it being an addict, and that's up to me. It's a personal decision. And you know, when I first got introduced to Narcotics Anonymous, I was in a treatment facility, and I don't name treatment facilities because I don't endorse them. You know, I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous, but because I've been in a lot of them, so it'd take a while. You know, and that doesn't make me any more of an addict either. You know, it doesn't. It just means that I paid a lot for this 12-step fellowship. But you know, I would use treatment facilities as means of getting a break, you know. And people would stop trusting me after a while, so I needed to go in a treatment facility. That way, they leave their purses out. You know what I'm saying? And so I would go into a treatment facility, and you know, I can't really tell you guys that I didn't want to get clean from the first time that I ever tried to get clean, but I can tell you that I had some reservations, you know. Our basic text says that relapse is never an accident. It's a sign that we have reservation in our program. And I do quote literature, and it's because I fucking read it, okay? And I know that pisses people off, but get over it. I spent 2 years in this program reading Relapse and Recovery at least once a week because I was that scared of using, that scared of using. And, when I first tried to get clean and they was taking us to outside meetings, they took us to another meeting. And on Wednesdays, we got to go to this meeting called Narcotics Anonymous. And I don't remember a lot about my first meeting, but I can tell you guys that I thought it was pretty cool. These guys had long hair, beards, and I could tell that they was addicts. Now, whether or not I believe that they was clean is another story. I kind of was like, okay, and there's only one person that I remember sharing, and he was sharing about hearing voices in his head, and I'm thinking, this guy's really fucked up, he really needs this program. And that's how oblivious to this disease that I was. This man was sharing about this disease talking to him, and he was sharing about working a step and applying it in order to get through that process of disease. And I had no clue. I thought he had a brain tumor, Yeah. And I have a lot of experience to share about what doesn't work coming into Narcotics Anonymous, And, when I got here, they told me, they said, find somebody that has what you want and do what they do. Find somebody that has what you want and ask them to sponsor you. Well, the hers in Narcotics Anonymous had what I want. And I was willing to go to any length to get it. And I spent several years in Narcotics Anonymous, just kind of hanging out here and making some very, very bad decisions that I'm not going to specifically get into because it's not important. You guys know what I'm talking about. And nobody ever kicked me out. Nobody ever told me not to come back. They just kept giving me hugs, At times in my life to where people locked the freaking door when I showed up, Narcotics Anonymous opened it, And, I came in and out of his fellowship for several years, and I would always surrender something. This time I'm going to get a sponsor. I ain't going to call him, but I'm going to get one, step in the right direction, And, I would just, and one of the things that I never really surrendered to doing is working the 12 steps in Narcotics Anonymous. And there was just a lot of fear in that process for me, a lot of fear. And I'm kind of going to back up a little bit and tell you guys how I got here this time. And I had been incarcerated because sometimes when we break the law, we go to jail, And they had let me out, and me and my brother actually had been incarcerated together. We got locked up together, and they let me out, and 2 weeks later they let him out, and he got out on a Friday, and he was dead on Monday. He overdosed with this. He died from this disease, and I would love to tell you guys that I made a decision right then that I'd had enough. I'd made a decision that the pain had got great enough, but I hadn't. Because I'd been coming in and out of Narcotics Anonymous for at least 5 years, and I had convinced myself, just like some of us do, that I could not get this. I could not do what other people do to stay clean. This stuff just doesn't work for me. So when my brother died, when we found him in the yard facing up, and I'm not going to talk about a lot of traumatic experiences because that doesn't make me any different than anybody else, But when that happened, I made a decision right then that I was going to use until I died. Or until the police shot me, because I ain't going back to jail, And so that was a decision that I made. And, I was out there for a little bit longer, and I made a decision one day, and sometimes even using, you got to go take a shower. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way it is. Every once in a while, you just got to go do that. And I went to my grandmother's house, and, I asked her, could I come in, could I take a shower? And while I was in there, my aunt came up there and they called the police on me. And because they knew I had narcotics on me, I couldn't go without them. So I know that the police is coming. Any sane person would hide their dope. But I can't do that because if I don't have it on me, what am I going to use? So I just do what I always do. I take off running. I'm a professional runner. I run from Dalmas his whole life, So I'm running up this road, and the police was kind of used to me. They knew that I made these irrational decisions, So every time that they come to get me, they knew that they was going to have to chase me. So they got, and I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm really short. These police officers' legs are as long as my body, So it was probably pretty funny to them, And so this cop didn't even involve. He just pulled over and just waited on me, and I could. So I'm running up this holler. That's what we grew up in, And I see the cop car, and I got my aunt chasing me from behind, and I know that there's another cop car coming from behind me, and I'm looking at the mountains, and I'm thinking, what do I do? Do I just hit the mountains? You know what I mean? What do I do? And I was so beat down from this disease, I was so dead that I walked up to that cop car and threw my hands up, and I said, "Take me, take me." Well, the next morning, to my surprise, after sleeping the night in jail, I wake up and they let me go, and I'm like, this shit ain't never happened, They just don't let me go, you know what I mean? What's going on here? So I walk out of the regional jail, lovely place, and there's 2 state troopers that rearrest me. And what had happened, is somebody had filed a mental hygiene on me because apparently I'm a danger to myself and others, I ain't hurting anybody, right? I'm just hurting me, right? And so these cops take me to a courthouse, and I'm arguing with them. And luckily for me, my aunt knew this person. I don't remember who the hell it was. She knew them, and she's like, "Don't believe nothing he says, okay?" I'll tell him, I ain't got a problem. I'm okay. Just let me die. But when I said let me die, that's all it took. That's all it took. A danger to myself and others. So they end up taking me to a place that I'm not going to endorse in Huntington, West Virginia. You guys ain't going to scream or nothing? Yeah, I'm from that area. So they take me to this facility, and this nurse that was there, and I don't remember her name, but she carried a message. She wasn't a member, but she carried a message of change to me. She's looking at my file, and I've been in all kinds of different treatment facilities. I use these places as vacation spots. You know what I mean? That's what I did. Acting like I'm trying to recover and shit. I'm gonna hang out for maybe 14 days in a 28-day program, and I'm gonna get loaded when I leave. And she's looking at my file, and she's like, just blown away, and I don't know why, because I'm not abnormal. There's a bunch of me sitting here right now, and she looks at me and she's like, "What are you going to do different this time?" And at this point, I'm in a 4-story building, okay, in a lockdown unit, in a pickle suit. You know what I mean? Because these guys can tell I do not give a shit if I live or die. That's how far that this disease brought me, and that doesn't make me any different than anybody else if you didn't get there. We're all the same. But I'm looking out these windows, and I'm thinking about busting a window out and climbing down a 4-story building, because that's sane, right? I mean, that's logical thinking. I don't know where I'm at. I think I'm in a city. I'm not for sure. But there's got to be dope around. They got to be a dope man somewhere. So I'm going to bust this window out, and I'm going to climb down this 4-story building, and I'm going to cop somewhere, And so I thought about that for a few days, and these guys was pretty good. I mean, they didn't give me, I couldn't find anything to bust a window out with. They had bars on it. They was used to people like us being in there, And, for some reason that night something clicked, and the woman asked me, "What are you going to do different?" And I said, "I don't know, but I got to do something." There was a split second, and you can call it whatever you want. I don't really label it. But there was a split second that I realized that I either had to die or do something different, you know. And one of the things that I wasn't for sure about is where the hell to go. Even though I'd been in Narcotics Anonymous for years, even though I'd been in and out of this fellowship, and probably people laughing their ass off at me, you know, in here sharing a bunch of craziness, you know, not working any type of program, looking at me and saying stuff like, "Keep coming back, Dalmas," you know, loving me through it. You know, I still didn't know where I was going to go that night, and I'm almost kind of embarrassed to share this, but I'm going to share it anyway. You know, there was a girl, okay. Now this was going to be different because this was detox romance. It wasn't rehab romance, and she had what I wanted, and so you know I followed her to another treatment facility, which I'm not going to endorse, and at that treatment facility, Narcotics Anonymous showed up, you know, and there was a couple members, and one of them's here tonight, and you know they're coming in, and I'm looking for differences, you know what I mean, but I could hear me, you know, I could still hear me, and the girl got high a week later, and I didn't, you know what I mean, and you know I got out of that facility. And, you know, I had a decision to make that night, you know. Most important meeting I go to, number fucking 1, you know. So I went to a meeting the night I got out of the facility. And I love H&I. You know, my gratitude shows when I suit up and show up and carry a message of Narcotics Anonymous. It's not about ego, it's about love, you know. It's about love of this fellowship. And I still do H&I today, and it's a really big part of my recovery, you know, really, really big part of it. And, you know, so I went to my first meeting, and these fuckers was serious, okay? In Huntington, West Virginia, these guys was serious about Narcotics Anonymous. That's my family, you know. So these guys took the ultimate responsibility that our literature talks about, and I suited up and showed up for my first meeting, and they asked me some questions, you know. You know, first they asked me my name, and then they talked about my name because it's Dalmas, you know, and my accent, you know, it was just different in Huntington, and they asked me some questions, and Dalmas, have you considered joining a home group, you know? You better bet your ass. And have you considered getting a sponsor? You know, ultimately it's the responsibility of the home groups to seek out the newcomers, and these guys fulfilled that responsibility as members of Narcotics Anonymous, and they carried a message to me that I use today, you know, because I give back what was so freely given to me. And you know, I was like, man, you fuckers are pushy, and I don't like it, you know, I don't like it. But at that point, I had got to that desperation that our literature talks about. So being as desperate as I was, and I mean, I felt like these guys was going to kick me out if I didn't get a sponsor. You know what I mean? I was like, shit. You know, they're harassing me. You know, because you know I didn't join a home group that first night. I didn't get a sponsor that first night, but the seed was planted. You know, so. It may have been a couple of nights after that, you know, I walked up to a man and I asked him to sponsor me, and the reason I asked him to sponsor me is because he shared about feelings of inadequacy. I had never in my life heard a man share that before. You know, I come from we die by man shit. You know what I mean? It's man shit will kill me, and I don't talk about it. You know what I'm saying? I'm just a person, and that's the way that I was raised. You didn't talk about the way you felt. You know, it would have made me uncomfortable for somebody to even ask me if I ever felt inadequate at that point in my life. I mean, that was just crazy talk. But this man was talking about it, and I just heard a lot of humility, and he shared about the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous and the application in his life. So the next night, because I'm fearful, so I didn't ask him that night. The next night, I track him down at his home group. You know, and home group, yeah. I walk up to him and I say, you know, my name's Dalmas, you know, and will you sponsor me? And he's like, he didn't give me the answer I thought that I should get, you know what I mean? He said, I don't know how serious you are. about working a program in Narcotics Anonymous. And that may sound a little brutal for you guys, but that's exactly what the hell I needed. I needed somebody that was going to let me know, Dalmas, you're not going to use my name as your fucking sponsor. If I'm going to sponsor you, you're going to do some work. But I think it was reverse psychology, but I don't know. He said, I don't know how serious you are. So I walked to the table and picked up a fucking step working guide. And I walked up to him, and I apologize if I cuss. I just get real passionate. But I walked up to him. And I said, man, I really need you to sponsor me. I need help with this, And he's asking me questions, and at that point, I learned stuff really quick. I'd been in and out of Narcotics Anonymous for 5 years, so I could talk some shit. You know what I mean? I'm a parrot, chameleon, whatever you want to call me. And so he caught on real quick. Dalmas, you know enough about recovery to kill yourself. One of my first step of missions in Narcotics Anonymous is I don't know shit about how to live life. I don't know anything, so why don't you guys teach me something different, And so we're talking, and he's asking me about reservations, and, this guy's geared around step work, And I'm thinking, man, I don't have any clue what you're talking about. And our first conversations, it'd be 10 minutes, and I understood about a minute of it. But I don't want him to know that because I'm fearful of letting him know that I don't know this stuff, But that man is still my sponsor today, and he means a lot to my recovery. He's not here today. He called me yesterday, and he said, Dalmas, just stay in the here now. And that's exactly what I needed to hear, And this addict is not perfect. He's just as much as imperfect as I am with the process of recovery, but he works a program. He works the 12 steps. He has a Narcotics Anonymous sponsor. He has a Narcotics Anonymous home group, and he does service work, And that was the other thing that was attractive to me. And this man had years of recovery, and how many doesn't matter, but he had years of recovery. And it amazed me to see the members who have years of recovery still coming to fucking meetings, especially 3 or 4 nights a week. And he taught me something. He taught me about the word commitment. He taught me about the word responsibility. The greatest message that I share is suiting up and showing up so somebody newer can see what we do in here. A lot of times we get this gift and we get a few years and we want to go somewhere else. And I don't know if they get graduation papers or not. I'm not real for sure. But I'm going to tell you, I see them in a newspaper later, and that carries a message to me too. So I stay involved. I don't co-sign meeting attendance. I don't say because I've been clean this long, I can only go to this many meetings. I go to meetings when as much as I possibly can with the schedule that I have today. I have to treat this disease, just like any other disease. And he taught me a lot about meeting attendance, and one of the first things that I did is I joined the home group, and I didn't join the home group that needed me. I joined the one with the cool kids in it, right? This home group had like 10 people in it or something, and my sponsor asked me about a month later, said, "What are you getting out of this home group?" And I didn't have an answer for him. If your sponsor asks you, what are you getting out of your home group, and you don't have an answer, you may want to look at that. That's my experience, And he's like, well, and there's just a lot of members, and just wasn't a lot of room. And if I made a cup of coffee, and by the way, if the people who put on this convention, thank you. You guys are fucking awesome. You guys are awesome. I'm telling you. The service work that members do in Narcotics Anonymous carries the greatest message. The selfless stuff that they do in this convention has to be a rough job. Thank you. If you're part of a home group and you carry a key and you make coffee and you pick up cigarette butts, thank you. Whatever your service commitment that you do in Narcotics Anonymous, thank you. And that's something that I really try to do because a lot of times we don't thank people for what they do in here. We don't. I don't. I don't think about that. But it's really important. And, luckily for me, I have a higher power that does for me what I'm unwilling to do for myself. Because I wasn't going to quit that home group because that was where the cool kids was. That's where my friends at, And so there was the home group brought a business meeting, and I'm thinking, oh, shit, what's this, They brought a business meeting and talking about opening a Saturday night meeting, And I was, me and another member was the only two that voted against it, And at the end of the day, we copped the resentment because we was the only two showing up to it, and broke off from that other home group. And that home group is still my home group today, and it means a hell of a lot to me. I've made about 11 of the last 14 conventions. Okay. And the reason why it's been 11 is because the doors of my home group being open is more important than anything else that I can do in Narcotics Anonymous. Bottom line, there's somebody that opened the door for me when I got here, and I'll continue to do that. And I don't share that because I'm awesome. It's just practical that I can do that. I can take a key and put it in a door and open a fucking door for a meeting because somebody did it for me, And, at that home group, it's funny because the member that broke off with me got high, about a week later. And here I sat with a year clean in Narcotics Anonymous with a home group that I had no clue how to run. It was a really good group conscience, though. Let me tell you. It was beautiful. Beautiful. I never got outvoted. One time. Things went the way that I wanted them to go. And there was another member of Narcotics Anonymous that joined, and thank God she did, because now we have a group conscience. We don't have a Dalmas conscience. We got a group conscience. And it was much needed. And I get outvoted all the time. All the time. And shit, I need that, I'm not always right. No one member is capable of making healthy decisions all the time. That's what our literature says. And I believe that. And, that home group, it just means a lot to me. And I was telling somebody the other day that I've been thinking about switching home groups, even after being in the home group I've been in for years, because I have a daughter today. And she's never seen me use. And she's important to me. And sometimes on Saturday nights, I'd like to spend some time with her. So I really struggle with that decision about what's more important. What's the spiritual decision? Go to a meeting of Narcotics Anonymous every Saturday night, or spend time with my kid? Now that's the high class problems I have today. You know what I'm saying? Trying to be a father. That shit's amazing to me. It blows me away. But back to the home group part of it. And one of the things that my area did a really good job of is manipulating me to do service. I guess we can call it manipulation because it worked. I thought they did a really good job. Good job, guys. And my first service committee I ever went to was a car workshop. Okay, and that's some serious shit. I go in there, and these guys are throwing out stuff, and I'm like, what are they talking about? And I'm watching my sponsor, and I'm voting with him. You know what I mean? This guy at that time was way up. He was just amazing. I was like, and I could tell he was like, so he after the car workshop, he was asking me, he was kind of giving me literature to read. And one of the things that I love about my sponsor is he allows me to gain my own opinion of things. He doesn't want me to vote with him. He wants me to read the literature and vote for myself. He wants me to be a member just like any other member of Narcotics Anonymous, and he knows that he's not always right. A lot of passion with no tact. I heard that up here, and I love it. And after that, we I started going to area service, and I'm going to talk a little bit about service work, and the reason why is because it's such a major part of my experience in Narcotics Anonymous. And I started doing service early on, and I went to the World Convention in Philadelphia, and with some of my family, And I was at World Convention, and there was a member on Saturday night that talked about having 2 service positions in case, if one rope breaks, he has another one, And this isn't bragging, but I will tell you guys, I've always had multiple service positions in Narcotics Anonymous because it's been practical. I've always been able to do that. And Narcotics Anonymous is not a fucking spectator sport. You know, if you want to stay clean, you better get involved, because shit gets hard in here sometimes. Shit gets real, and based on how deep that I'm in Narcotics Anonymous is going to be whether or not I'm going to make it out of that or not. You know, and I spent years in that 5 years that I was telling you guys about earlier trying to adapt Narcotics Anonymous to my life. You know, trying to do that. I got to adapt my life to Narcotics Anonymous. I have to put my chair in the middle of the circle and build my life around this fellowship. And the freedoms that I have gained through that process is amazing. You know, just amazing. And, you know, I thought a lot about this, and I was like, am I going to go through the steps? And I'm not going to do that to you guys. I'm really not. But step work has been a really big part of my process in Narcotics Anonymous, and sponsorship rings true with that. And today, I have an awesome sponsor that I've worked the 12 steps with, and I continue to work the 12 steps with. I have freaking awesome sponsees. You know, these men carry me through some of the roughest times that I have, and I'm going to tell you about some of those times. You know, I spent about 4 years in Narcotics Anonymous, really passionate, really involved. You know, I'm going to jump on a grenade for Jimmy K kind of shit. You know, but I heard that up here too, and I don't see George, but I really appreciated that. And you know, that's how I was when I first got here. And I knew enough, again, I started knowing enough about recovery to kill me, you know, because when I think I know something, I'm in trouble, you know. I'm the type of guy that manufactures lies in his head, you know. And so I was around long enough to think I know something, and maybe I can slack off a little bit, you know, but I was also around long enough to get complacent. And there was some things that happened. And there's been a lot of things that's happened since I've been clean, and you guys do not have to get loaded no matter what, you know. I have buried half of my family in Narcotics Anonymous clean. You know, when my father died of an overdose from his disease, you know, a couple years ago, I was the person that they called to be the executor of his estate. You know, a lost cause, an addict who would rob anybody in a heartbeat, was the person that they called and said, Dalmas, you're the most responsible one out of all of us, and we need you to do this, you know. And Narcotics Anonymous was here with me through that process. And I have a lot of experience with losing people, a lot of experience. You know, my grandmother, I went and made an amends to her on her deathbed, and she looked at me and she said, you know, what's wrong? And I said, I just don't want you to leave yet, you know. And this woman was the strongest woman I'd ever met. And she said, Dalmas, this isn't the time for you to be selfish. And that woman changed my view of death. You know, she said, I've lived my life, you let me go. You know. And she changed me. And that's not an addict, that's just a regular woman who means the world to me, who's not here anymore. You know. And I still carry that message because that's a message to me, you know. And I've lost a lot of family members, and I've had to endure a lot of things, and I've never even thought about using over it. You know, I never thought about getting loaded over that. I've had some health issues that come up, and I'm going to talk specifically about it because I think that people need to be more comfortable talking about what's going on with them. But as an addict, I had some consequences of using, and I was diagnosed with hepatitis C, and I got really sick for a while. And if you've ever done the treatment of hepatitis C, it's pretty rough, you know. And I had to go through that for 6 months. And during that period of my recovery, all I was doing was coming to Narcotics Anonymous meetings and holding on no matter what. People would share, and I thought, I'm going to hit that fucker with a chair. That's what I want to do. Because, you know, they said, you'll get suicidal on this treatment. Hell, I got homicidal, you know. And nobody was doing anything right during that process. You know, these guys they're not running their home groups right, or committees ain't going right. So, and I was coming to Narcotics Anonymous, and I was gluing myself to the chair, you know. And I got in the process of not coming to as many meetings because all I could do was make it through work. I could make it through work and maybe go to a meeting and lay on my couch. I was just that sick during that process. And there was a couple members in here tonight, and some of them I sponsor, some of them I don't. But they called me on my shit. We are each other's eyes and ears in here. And there was a couple of them that said, Dalmas, you're not coming to as many meetings. What's going on? And I didn't get upset about that. That's love when people do that for me. When people say, Dalmas, what's going on with you, man? Why haven't you been around? Why aren't you participating? And I was on my way out the door. And how I know that is through the process of inventory. Okay? And the first thing I started doing was dropping my service positions. Because this disease wants to get me alone and kill my ass. And if it separates me from you, then I'm done. And that's my process of fighting this disease in recovery. I will self-destruct on my own. I don't need any help. Kill myself. Attempted suicide all the time. With my decisions. And I was sitting there one night, and it was right before I started getting those phone calls, and I'm thinking about firing my sponsees because I couldn't take care of them anymore. I couldn't sponsor them because I was sick. I was going through some health issues, and they don't deserve that. They need somebody else. And these fuckers ain't going nowhere. They're stubborn as hell. Stubborn as hell. But there was members who called me and showed up, and a couple of them, and one of them said, or maybe two of them said, I want to come and pick you up and take you to a meeting. And I made the mistake of saying, well, if you call me and ask me to go to a meeting, I'll go with you. These fuckers drove me crazy. Because that's what we do for one another, and these men do not understand how much they saved my life. And maybe I would have stayed, maybe I wouldn't. But that kind of dedication, that kind of love of membership in Narcotics Anonymous is some of the reasons why I'm still here today, And I owe a lot of rides in Narcotics Anonymous. I spent 5 years in this process without license because they took that shit, and said I had to pay them money or something to get them back. And the financial amends part is not my favorite area, Even when I'm getting something out of it, I still struggle with it. And so it took me around 5 years to pay back the amount that they said I owed, which isn't nothing really what I should have had to pay. And I got my license back, and in at 5 years I probably got 1 million rides, and I'm going to pay every fucking one of them back. If you give newcomer rides, thank you. If you give old-timer rides, thank you. It doesn't really matter if you're giving a member of Narcotics Anonymous a ride to a meeting. I love that stuff, and it just means a lot to me. And I don't have a lot more. I'm not going to hold you guys hostage. I'm not going to set myself up to be any more or less than what I really am. I'm as imperfect of a member of Narcotics Anonymous as you can get. If you could be thrown out of this fellowship, I would have been thrown. That's just the way that it is. But one of the things that does mean a lot to me, and I hope that nobody takes this as ego, but what we do is 10 times more important than what we say in here. And that means a lot to me. And I don't tell you guys this shit because it sounds good, because I don't know what it sounds like. But stuff like that has changed my perception of how to work a program. Because there's times in this process that I think that I'm only hurting myself. But if I have 2 days clean, the guy with the 1 day is watching me. And what I do today means something. My responsibility as a member who applies a program is very important, and I take that shit dead serious. I take these principles, this program, life and death for me. And I do it imperfectly, but I do it. And, that kind of stuff. And one of my favorite speakers, and Beverly R. shared about him in a I think it was, I don't remember shit. It was in a meeting. His name's Greg P. And If you guys ever have a chance, if you haven't listened to him, he's freaking awesome. And I listen, and this man died years before I ever got to Narcotics Anonymous, but his message still lives in here, because I listen to him. The members who share, it may be one or two things that you say that I grab a hold of that changes my life. I talked to my sponsor the other day, and I was telling him, he was asking me about, have I been back to get checked? Because, and I forgot to tell you guys, I'm in remission for Hep C. So, I hope. It's a tricky little bastard. But he was asking me, he said, Dalmas, have you been back to the doctor? Well, hell no, I ain't been back to the doctor. And he asked me, he said, why have you not done that? And I said, I don't feel like it. And he said, Dalmas, this is not a feeling program. This is an action program. Go to the fucking doctor, And it's stuff like that I carry with me for days, months, hours. It doesn't matter. That changes the way that I apply myself in my life, And he was asking me about how I felt about coming up here and speaking. And I told him I was afraid, And he said, why are you afraid? I said, well, they're probably going to expect something. And I don't know what he said. He's hard to understand, I'm telling you. I don't know what he said, but what I got out of that was, who the hell are you to tell them the way that they, who are you to decide what they expect, And I'm pretty important, you know what I mean? I have to get up on a daily and resign from the governor of the universe, I love to run shit, And I mean, sometimes our liabilities are our assets, as our literature talks about. And today, my position is a manager. And the company loves this disease because I kick ass, I love to manage and control. I'll do it no matter how much I have to suffer, And somebody asked me the other day about management, and I said, well, every morning I pull into the parking lot and I pray that I don't manage and control. And it's really crazy because I get paid to manage and control. But that's how I get through that process, because these guys don't do what I want them to do all the time, And one of the things that's really made me mature in Narcotics Anonymous or in life is doing service work in committees, because I don't always get my way, If you haven't got a resentment at another member, keep coming back, Keep doing service work, Eventually somebody won't be doing it the way you think they should. And they'll say something that you don't agree with. And, relationships is the most painful, difficult area. And I'm not talking about just romantic relationships. I'm really not. Relationships in Narcotics Anonymous has been so important to me, because there was a process in recovery to where I caught myself in a corner, And the reason I was in that corner is because I kept getting resentments at other people, And the only common denominator in all those relationships is me, I can tell myself it's you all day long. I'm the problem, And I'm in Narcotics Anonymous, and I'm looking at my circle, at my support group, and it's went down to about 3 people, because I've separated myself from the herd, And I tell myself, I justify this shit, And the truth is, regardless of whether or not I'm taking you out for coffee later, I have the ability to love you. And that means a lot to me. And I'm not going to tell you that I like everybody in Narcotics Anonymous, but I try to promote unity at all costs. Because the principles before personality, my personality is what that states to me a lot of times. I am the problem. And I want to look outside of me for the problem and the solution. You know what I'm saying? When I celebrated a year clean, there was one of my best friends in NA gave me a cup, and it says it's an inside job. And the reason why is because I was one of those members that got here when they asked that question of what's more important, your face or your ass. I had to think about it. It's one of those third steps, decisions that you make. But what's more important, my face or my ass? I'm not for sure. And I came in here like that, and he gave me this cup, and and it says it's an inside job, and I drank coffee every day out of that cup. I washed it, but I every day for like three years, and it really meant a lot to me because I want to fix an inside problem with an outside solution. If I can find the right relationship, or the right outfit, or the right job, things are got to get better, right? That's the kind of thinking that I have. It couldn't be that I just need to work some fucking steps. And it's stuff like that's really changed me in this process, is looking internally at the problem and internally for the solution. And step work has meant so much to me in this process and just membership. And I don't know. I was trying to think of something really awesome to close with. I was telling somebody earlier, like that when I got up this morning and beyond the opening the book, all morning long I've been trying to pray not to think about what I'm going to share, and that's difficult because these fuckers told me like 4 months ago that I was going to share, and I was mad because we got an extra hour. Everybody else was like, yeah, we got an extra hour for a convention. I'm like, oh great, great, That's just one more hour for me to have to obsess about this, and I don't know, but probably the only thing that I really have to tell you guys is keep coming back. Practice doesn't make us perfect, but it makes us better. And our literature talks about we're not born with skills, that we obtain those over time through practice. And I have sucked at application ever since I've been here. I'm perfectly imperfect, but I continue not to get loaded, and I continue to come back. I continue to participate because, again, it's not a spectator sport, in Narcotics Anonymous. I continue to live this way of life. And, today I have a life that's beyond anything that I can share with you guys. And I have some problems because I'm ungrateful. I was the type of addict that have a pocket full of dope, and I'm pissed off because I can't find more. I'm not content with anything. But at the end of the day, the reality is that I am truly blessed. I really am. The ability to come up here and speak in front of you is something that I just couldn't even imagine before. Because I was so fearful of judgment. I was so fearful of screwing things up. I spent 2 days up here thinking, am I going to sign the paperwork to do the CD or not? I'm like, I'll speak if they don't record it, No, but I'm really grateful that I suited up and showed up, and that's all I got, guys.